Boom, we're live. Kenny, so today in this podcast, we're going to talk about, we're going back to the fundamentals of spear. So in the last podcast, we talked about what spear is. So Kenny, spear is, you want to talk about the definition of spear?
Yeah, SPPRR is an acronym, right? So it consists of 5 letters, SPPRR, short for spear. So like you're throwing a spear somewhere, like a javelin.
So your life's spear, right?
Yeah, your life spear. So S is spiritual, P is physical, the other P is psychological, R is for resources, and the other R is for relationships or relationally. And each one of those is super critical in your life. So what I like to do is I like to keep track of each 5 of those letters per day and see like, okay, how is my life structured right now? How am I spiritually? How am I physically? How's my mental health? How's my psychological doing? How's my resources? Am I doing good financially? And then how are my relationships in my life? Because if one of those struggling, just say if I have I'm good spiritually, I'm fit, I'm super happy, I make good money, but my relationships are struggling, like with my friends or my family, my daughter, any of those, true fulfillment comes from all these different aspects. So if one's struggling, all of them will struggle. So you want to make sure all those plates are spinning.
Right. So each component. So start with the S is for spiritual. So spiritual, and the reason why the S and spiritual is first is because that's the first component. The most important of all is your spiritual purpose, why you're here, who are you, why you're here, and what do you want. And so however you define who you are spiritually, that's exactly who you are. And then the P stands for physical. That's the next most important. And then the other P, the third P, or the second P stands for psychological. And I guess we already talked about those, right?
Yeah, psychological.
Resourcefully. And
Yeah.
relationally. So relationships with each and every person, including yourself. So, and then those that your loved ones, businesses and everything else, any type of relationship. So last time we talked about the physical component of spear, your life spear. So today we're going to talk about the spiritual component of spear. Right now we've got a good view of the temple, Ochre Mountain Temple. You see it out there, Kenny?
Yep. And you can see a few temples from here. And
Yeah.
spiritual is I would say the foundational component to spear, because spiritual, we are all spirit beings. We're not just we're not just bodies walking around. We're all driven by something more deep than that. And the spirit is actually what helps guide your decisions in life, your route that you want to go down. Whether if you believe in a God or some sort of higher power or just anything spiritual, that's just the way to believe in something that's going to be fulfilling.
Right. And so whatever it is you're working towards spiritually, so for me personally, right now we have a good view from the window here of the temple. So I would start out with the temple. So going and serving those of passed away in the temple, doing temple work for me is a priority, and scripture study and any type of media that's going to help me understand myself and get a better understanding of spiritually of who I am, why I'm here, and what I want. And then also super important is my calling right now is teaching in Sunday school. So preparing a lesson each, not every week, but every few weeks, preparing a lesson. So those are the things that are spiritually that make up who I am, my purpose of who I am, why I'm here, and what I want. And so if you ask yourself on a daily basis, what am I working towards spiritually? I mean, what you do daily on a daily basis will define who you are. Those are the habits that you create on a daily basis, defines who you are spiritually, physically, resourcefully. Resourcefully meaning, some money, so resources, and relationships. So are you checking in with your loved ones, those that you want to have a strong relationship with, including God? So everything, in all, there's spirituality in each component of your life sphere. So, yeah. So what about you, Kenny? What do you have on your spiritual component or plate that you're balancing in your life?
Yeah, so I actually have like daily goals, weekly goals, and just overall goals that I want to continue to hit, like making sure I'm saying my prayers, making sure I'm attending church or Sunday service, making sure I'm serving others, just making sure that spiritually I'm doing well. Because as soon as your mind or your focus kind of gets off of your spiritual, and that starts to struggle a bit, that's when other things in your life are going to start to struggle. I've actually talked to a few people that just have a question like, man, I don't know, I'm kind of out of touch with God, or I'm like, I don't know, like spiritually, I don't even know where to start. I'm confused, this and that, and some of it's some of my family, and I'm able to help them in that direction, simply because I'm able to just kind of focus on those key points in my life and stay strong in those areas. Not saying I'm the strongest in those areas or I don't have any struggles myself spiritually, because everybody does. That's what life's here, or that's what life is here for. But when I'm struggling spiritually, like personally, I've noticed everything in my life start to crumble, because that's when your values go out the window. That's when bad things start to happen in your life. And to say like, hey, my business is going well. Oh, I stop attending church. I stop praying. I kind of forget about God. I drop my values, and my business starts to crumble. And that's kind of like what we would call the pride cycle. The pride cycle is just having your everything to say all the 5 components of spear. Everything's good. You're on track, and then eventually you probably start to forget about it. You feel like you've arrived, and then you want to. Not want to, but then eventually, like naturally, it's everything. Like things start to kind of fall apart because you stop. You take your eye off the ball, and things start to fall apart. And then you realize that, and then you get back on track. You start saying your prayers again. You start, giving thanks, doing good for others, serving others, and all that stuff. And things start going better with your business, with your relationships, with your health. Everything's tied to spiritual. Like I said earlier, it doesn't really matter if you believe in God or like believe in like something like that, but it's all like but believing in a higher power or believing in yourself spiritually and knowing something that stems from your spiritual being is good, and the fruits that are from that are good, and you're doing good based on your spiritual beliefs, and then that's what provides fulfillment. But not saying that if you're like an atheist or whatever, you can't do good in life. But when it comes to true fulfillment, I've never met anybody that kind of like you could say you're atheist, but deep down you spiritually that there's something there. Not saying that it's a God, but you just know you have those values, and that stems from your spirit. Period. So, yeah, that's kind of my stand on spiritual, but everything's tied from your spiritual.
So I was just taking some notes while you're talking about about the spiritual component. And so we've talked a little bit about ACMARSPs, and that's another abbreviation acronym for how to have long-term success in each one of these components. So spear, your life spear. So let's talk about how you would apply that to your spiritual component. So the A stands for action. The C stands for clarity. M stands for measurable. A stands for accountability, R, recorded, S, sacrificed, P, practice, P, planned, S, shared. Those are all the letters within ACMARSPs. And so first things first, so spiritually, what's the first thing you need to do to reach long-term success in your spirituality, in your relationship with God? First thing you need to do is take an action. Stop thinking about it. Start doing something. So you can start out with a prayer. You can start out with even singing, a hymn or whatever it is that's going to bring you closer to God. and ultimately help you feel the Spirit, and allow Him to lead you. So the second thing is clarity. The C stands for clarity. Gain clarity of what it is you want to accomplish. So if you want to read scriptures on a daily basis, like you talked about your dailies, you talked about things that you're doing that are going to make up who you are long term, and show me what you're doing on a daily basis, and that's who you are, right? And those are the decisions, the small and simple things that great things come to pass. So that's the clarity. Where are you right now? Yesterday we talked about the physical component. So how you would apply that to the physical would also be, you talked about body fat percentage, your weight, those types of things. That's an indicator of, where you're at. It's going to give you some clarity. So gaining some clarity, spiritually, I think, how could you gain clarity? Pray.
Yeah, pray and kind of dive a bit deeper into like what you actually want spiritually. And AC Marshpiece is actually really good. That ties directly into Spear. So Spear, each of those components can be broken down even more because of AC Marshpiece. So like spiritual, you could apply AC Marshpiece to your spiritual realm, and then apply AC Marshpiece to your physical, to your all the other acronyms there. And it gets kind of deep, and then you could track it every single day, but it could sound like hard work because it actually is, but what are the benefits and the fruits that come from it? So like getting clarity, like me being clear on what I want, I'm able to track everything, and that's one of the components in AC Marshpiece is measurable. Being able to track, measure, do that stuff for all those other components as well.
Yeah, I always say progress is made where progress is measured. If you can't manage what you can't measure. We've all heard that old cliche, can't manage what you can't measure. So being able to measure what where you were at yesterday and where you're at today. So it's a small and simple things, great things come to pass. You can climb that metaphorical mountain one step at a time, but you have to know where you were yesterday to know where you're at today. So gain some clarity and start measuring, and if it's going to the temple every month or every week or every day, whatever it is, or praying, well, put a little notch on the wall, put on your belt, whatever it is, put on keep track of what your goal is on a daily basis. Start keeping track. Accountability. So accountability is, spiritually, whether you're going to your bishop or whoever it is, your ecclesiastical leader, I said yesterday, we all have to pay the piper. We all have to be accountable to someone, and that's God. So accountability. So who's going to hold you accountable? So if it's on a weekly basis, monthly basis, meeting with someone to see whether you're making progress. We all want to say that we can measure and we can hold ourselves accountable, but that's wishful thinking. And that brings us to the R, which is recorded. So we're now to the recorded. Keeping a record of your progress, right? It's built into us, our DNA, to be able to see and when we can see the progress that we're making, it actually releases endorphins in our brain so that we can continue and move forward. To keep a record of where you've been, we forget about, if we've been through anything difficult in the past, a lot of times we forget. But keep a record of, the things that you've been through spiritually, but keep a journal. I know I did on my mission, and I haven't kept it as consistently as I've wanted to post-mission, but I have the things I've written down. I can tell you right now, I'm 20-something years post-mission, and I still read a lot of those things I've put in my journal after my mission. Not just on my mission, but after my mission. When kids are born, marriage and that sort of thing, life-changing events, definitely keep a journal. But keep a journal where you're at spiritually, all right? So now we're to recorded, sacrificed. It's the law of sacrifice. something of value has to be sacrificed for something greater, equal or greater value. I mean, it's the law of sacrifice. So what are you willing to sacrifice? Time is going to be spent regardless. What are you willing to do to sacrifice today in order to get what you want tomorrow? That's what it comes down to, is the law of sacrifice. So it has to be difficult. You have to stretch. Something has to be sacrificed. So if it's sleeping in, rather than getting to church on time or going to the temple, I mean, heck, I could think of a million different things I could do rather than going to the temple every week. But there's nothing else I'd rather do than be there at the temple. And that's the time that I'm sacrificing, And so you can think of the sacrifices you're making throughout your life and throughout your day. Just think about a prayer. You're taking a time out of your day. That's time. And then the first P is practiced. So practice makes perfect, right? So whatever you're practicing, so practice your religion, practice your faith. Practice bearing your testimony. Right now, I mean, in a way, that's what we're doing. We're bearing our testimony of the things that we know to be true. These are the things I've kept a record of over the many years of anything I've ever had success at. Spiritually, for example, these are the things that I've done that have made it a quantitative formula, something I could follow, is easy to follow. So now we're to practice. The second and the last P is planned. So fail to plan to fail. All right? That's the old cliche. Everyone knows that. So you have to have a plan. We don't really need to go into too much detail, but we all know about having a plan. So how would you have a plan spiritually? What's your plan spiritually? What are you doing? What's your roadmap? On Sunday, yesterday was Sunday, we talked in Sunday school, we talked about having a roadmap, a celestial roadmap, your covenant roadmap. So where are you along that map, that roadmap, right? So these are some of the things you can think of your plan. All of this combined, I would say, is part of your plan of staying on the straight and narrow. Shared is the last S, shared. So something I learned on my mission 20-something years ago was the more I shared, the more of what I knew, the more I understood what I was teaching. And so that's exactly what we're doing today, sharing what we know to be true and sharing experience. I mean, that's the whole reason we come to this life, right? Is to gain experience and to have an increase of knowledge through experience. So it's experiential life, right? I mean, life is a culmination of experiences, interpreted experiences, what I say. So share what you know. The more you share, interestingly, the more you learn. So think about it like on your mission. Kenny, you're out there sharing the gospel, sharing what you know to be true, and what happened in return. After 2 years, who is the biggest convert?
Yourself, man. You are the biggest convert, for real.
There you go. So share what you know. I always talk about this metaphorical dark mountain that we're climbing that no one knows the way up. And so if you've been through any type of trial, tribulation, adversity, and you found a way to navigate that dark mountain, and I say you have a lantern of light, of knowledge that you've gained from experience that you can pass back to that person that's lower down on the mountain. And really it's up to them to take that lantern of light that you're passing back, and they can take it or deny it. And that's really all this is is sharing of that metaphorical light, that lantern back, saying, you know what, this is what's worked for me. And, I always say I don't take advice from people that on any topic unless they have done it or they're currently doing it. Everything else is just opinion, in my opinion.
Yes, sir.
So that's AC Mars P's, that's Spear. That's, in a nutshell, how you would combine it all. But the application is key, right? So if you're watching this or you're listening to this podcast, consider this like your Google. This is information. It's a lot of information. It's like going to the temple, let's be honest. Right? So we're throwing a whole bunch of information at you. And there's a lot of information out there. You can search for a lot of random information, but it's how it's not, knowledge isn't power. It's the application of the knowledge is what's powerful. So what's the first thing within AC Mars P's? Action. There's a reason why action is the first thing. You got to quit talking about, thinking about it, and do it. Right? I like the saying, you got to don't talk about it, be about it, right? So that's really what it comes down to is AC Mars P's, balancing your life sphere. If you can do this on a regular basis, I mean, what this does is asking yourself and gaining clarity of who you are, why you're here, and what do you want. If you can't answer those questions, I kind of find it hard to believe that you're moving in any direction that you would, that means anything to you. Right? So I like the scripture. What was it? That one that Joe Smith read in the New Testament that he said, what was the scripture? I'm thinking of it in Spanish.
James 1:5.
Yeah, Santiago. James. Yeah, 1:5. And what does it say in James 1:5, Kenny?
If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God. And giveth to men liberally, all men liberally, and upbraideth not. Pretty much. So if you don't know something, just ask God.
There you go. Simple.
So
Simple. So, yeah, so that's what we're doing. That's the purpose of this podcast, is to share experiences, share knowledge. If you know something, say something, right? So, and so it's an amazing experience, and it's a pleasure to do this with you, Kenny. So, should we wrap this up?
yes, sir.